Diablo 4, bad. No, wait, let's be completely real about this. Diablo 4, complete trash that failed on everything it tried to accomplish. That sounds more like it. But the real question is, can Diablo 4 be actually saved? What do we need to fix to make this game from trash to maybe playable? Well, let's find out.
One thing that has definitely shown to be a problem is the Uber grind. So you have to farm Duriel like hundreds, even thousands of times. People do that, at least with dupe mats. That is somewhat realistic. Now, well, dupes are gone. And in general, the Uber grind is just boring at some point. So it's fine to do the Duriel.
So, the Uber grind and Uber uniques have a couple of problems. First of all, this is exactly what I said will happen. Blizzard introduces Uber uniques, and everyone's like, whoa, this is amazing, this is really cool, I want it. And I was fine with that, because the Uber unique drop chance was pretty much non-existential. Only a couple of people had it, and they felt like really good and special when they found those items. And I thought that was good. But I knew the writing on the wall, because this is not the first time Blizzard has done exactly something like this, by the way. Okay? So, they introduced this super special rare thing, and then people start to complain, wow, I want it also. Okay? And then Blizzard makes it easier to acquire. Then more people start to try and acquire these items, and guess what? They start to complain that it's still too hard, and now there's more people complaining. So Blizzard caves in once again and makes it easier and easier and easier and easier to acquire these Uber uniques. And now, well, we're at the exact spot that I predicted is going to happen. Uber uniques are no longer Uber uniques. They're just kind of rarer items that you're supposed to grind out, but everyone who wants them will probably acquire them. That's where we're at. And now with the new crafting thing that they're introducing for Uber uniques, yeah, they're completely non-unique now, and everyone probably who spends, 5 hours playing this game will mostly acquire all the Uber uniques they want. So, it's no longer an Uber unique, it's just an item that you honestly might as well just start the game at this point, because that's what Blizzard always does. There's this Uber unique thing, people complain, Blizzard completely flip-flops on the opposite direction, and they make it as common as dirt. There you go. This is exactly what I predicted will happen with Uber uniques, and congratulations, we're finally here. Took longer than I expected, though. And the second part is, yeah, the Uber unique grind is really, really annoying. There are things that you can actually get just like passively playing, and it feels good because, it's technically a boss to kill and it's special and it breaks up the monotony. But there are things like, Helltides that are completely horribly designed things that absolutely no one enjoys. And half of that unenjoyment comes from the fact that you need to pick up the cinders yourself because, if only technology existed that could actually, give you the cinders automatically or something like that.
Really grind, every so often for a little bit. But personally, I found like around 400 or so Duriels last season. And that was in a rotation, of course. So, I found up like around 100 Duriels myself and then multiplied them by times 4 in a party. And that is quite a grind. And now in Season 3, we also have the same Uber grind yet again.
By the way, this makes absolutely no sense what Blizzard is doing. And someone commented about this. Someone left an amazingly good comment. Diablo 4 is the game for the dads who have 3 seconds every day to play Diablo 4 and they do it like 2 times a month. And they need to be happy. Diablo 4 is the game for these people, right? So how the hell does it make sense that you're going to add seasons, something that deletes your progression, and you're going to actually add something like the gauntlet that is competitive and requires you to grind and be efficient and all of those things. Diablo 4 was supposed to be the casual-esque type of PoE, but they're adding things that are exactly opposite to the realm of casual. If you think about it, it really does not make any sense if you think about it. Diablo 4 is supposed to be the casual PoE, but they're adding things that are not casual at all to the game.
Now there are some improvements coming to that very soon, I guess. Blizzard has already teased that we're gonna see, like, we're gonna get something for the Uber Unix. But in the grand scheme of things, I guess it's still gonna be the same old Dorito grind unless something major changes here. And I think we need something.
Oh yeah, and this part doesn't make sense. So they removed the ability to form groups and farm something 4 times. So they're removing the need for a social interaction, which is very cool, Blizzard. 10 out of 10, obviously. Removing social interaction. Who wants that in the game, right? Anyway. And then they add the system where you can just get the unique you want because getting a unique is too hard. So how does this make sense? Again, Blizzard just does random things. People were 4xing their materials with playing in parties. And now they delete it, and now they give you an alternative to get a bigger chance of getting a unique. How does that make sense?
Better. First of all, this needs to be more solo player friendly. Like, we need a way for solo players to, at least at a somewhat acceptable efficiency, farm up those Uber Uniques and not be forced to go 4-man Dorito grind. So that is the main point here. And also the second point is we only have this one source of Ubers, really. We have no other bosses. Like, why don't they just make like some actual hard mode bosses of all of...
Do not agree with this opinion. It is not a problem that there's only one source of these things. The problem is that the source of these things is stupid, boring, and people don't like it. It's grindy and no one likes the things associated to that. That is the problem. The source itself is not a problem that there's only one source. That's completely fine. Just make that one source good.
Of the bosses that we have, like, we have Vashan, we have Grigor, etc. And in my opinion, they could all drop like maybe 1 or 2 of those, and then you can actually kind of, target one of them and actually grind exactly the Uber that you want for your build, and not have everything on one boss where it's like full RNG and you get lucky or you don't. So I think that could definitely change very easily, actually, just by making like, a hard mode of all of those bosses, like a level 100 version, or even like higher than that, like a 125 version or so, something that has like 20 times the HP, 10 times the damage, and, is actually a bit of an encounter.
Don't think that will work. So Diablo already is not balanced, okay? There are mobs that just literally one-shot you, then there are mobs that don't even do damage to you. It's already horribly completely busted in all ways possible. It's like, and that just makes it worse, I guess. Because Diablo is not balanced in the first place. The skills, the defensives, the nothing is balanced for this game, right? So the problem becomes extremely simple and self-explanatory. You can't just increase something's damage by 10 times, because that means that, certain classes are going to only have one viable build to clear it, and that's stupid because nothing else is viable to play. And people are not going to like it.
Instead of you just walking in and one-shotting them. So there could be relatively easy solutions, I think, to this, and I think it's just a missed opportunity here. Also, similar, the T100 dungeons in the game right now are completely irrelevant with the changes in Season 3. So right now we get higher level loot in higher level nightmare dungeons up until around level 90. In fact, even a bit before that, like even if you farm 85, for example, you're basically guaranteed 925 loot every single item, and there's not really a change in the loot anymore. So the last like 15, even up to 20 levels of difficulty are completely irrelevant right now. And I think that T100 should be a nice goal to have.
No one plays Nightmare Dungeons in the first place, so who cares?
Nice, like try to make your character strong enough to farm those kind of scenario. So I would really like to see something like an Uber drop chance for T100 Nightmare Dungeons. This would be solo player friendly.
That's not gonna fix Nightmare Dungeons. That's just gonna further make Uber Uniques completely, absolutely 100% useless. Okay? Well, not useless, but beyond common. So that's kind of a bad thing in its own, right? So, yeah, again, things like this don't work. The thing that you need to do with Nightmare Dungeons is the fact that fire everyone who's working on Diablo 4. Can't say that as many times as possible, because that is the solution to every problem Diablo 4 has. Just fire these incomprehensible idiots, because they're complete garbage at their jobs. And, hire crackheads from across the street. They're probably going to at least make something fun, right? But the problem with Nightmare Dungeons is the fact that they are poorly laid out. They're just corridors, claustrophobic small corridors that are not fun, that branch out for some reason in 3 to 4 different directions, and then you can go into a dead end, and everyone loves obviously finding a dead end when they're trying to grind monsters, and it kind of sucks. The vaults are doing a really great job with their layouts, with creating the illusion of freedom, of openness, but you never get lost in them because you know exactly where to go. It creates a really good illusion of freedom and complexity and whatnot, which Nightmare Dungeons just can't do. They're all poorly designed garbage.
As I had just described, but also it would actually give some relevance to gearing up your character strong enough, making a build powerful enough so it can blast through those T100s. And if it's like, only on T100, there's like this, this guaranteed, you get guaranteed sigils of T100 every time you complete one, for example. And you can kind of like, perpetuate the grind like this and keep blasting until you get something. So I think this would be a relatively easy solution, just put like Ubers in Nightmare Dungeons. Now, there's another big topic here, and that is old seasonal content. So I think it's a kind of big waste that we don't really have any leftovers of the previous season themes in the game. Okay, we have Varshan, there's like a one boss fight, and he's kind of irrelevant. And all the other stuff is kind of just gone. The Bloodseekers are gone.
Yep.
The Blood Tide is gone, the Million Tunnels are gone, and I expect the vaults will be gone. So I just put this on the
Yep, this could be so good. I have talked about this previously, but one interesting thing that they could experiment. Now, I'm not guaranteeing that this is going to work, but it would be completely remove everything visible on the map with what kind of events are happening where. So people just hover over a map in the overworld, I mean, by the way. In the overworld, and they see what is currently active happening there. Okay? And that doesn't show you. You actually need to traverse the map, and, pretty much that's it. You just, go through the map and you maybe find an event or something. Do something like that. Not everything is supposed to be a marker with, the Diablo 4 GPS system, which actually doesn't work, by the way, still properly. It can't even calculate the shortest route to my destination, Blizzard. What the hell is that even about? How do you mess that up, honestly? I don't even know. But yeah, it would be good if they just added these things to the overworld map. For example, you encounter a vampire event, a specific vampire event, for example, with Bloodseekers. Or, malignant tunnels. Or the vault. So entrance to a vault that randomly appears for no reason in the map that you did not know. Things like that could be pretty good. And they actually have their own mechanics and events tied to them that you can maybe level up or something like that. It would be good. World of Warcraft actually does have a couple of systems that could have been taken there. For example, the vaults have their own reward mechanic structure and something like that. World of Warcraft did... Essentially, it's the same as PoE, honestly, right? It's just an Atlas 3-4 maps. World of Warcraft has that, but it's a specific window. You could do the same.
List here as well. And I think that is not how it works. So in my book, I think we should get back all of the stuff in Season 4. For example, Bloodseekers. I think Bloodseekers were amazing in Season 2. Like, when they popped up in a dungeon and they were hunting you down, and they were actually dangerous events. They were like, these super powerful elites. It was kind of cool, and especially because they scaled with the difficulty of the dungeon, they were actually like an interesting encounter, which is something that is really lacking in Diablo 4.
I never saw that because the reality is everyone has accepted Nightmare Dungeons and no one wants to go do them. Because we haven't actually accepted Nightmare Dungeons, we have actually given up on them. That's why people were mad that Vaults only dropped the equivalent reward of a Nightmare Dungeon. And that's why it was a problem. Because the reality is we never accepted Nightmare Dungeons to actually be good content. We just gave up on it. While I was playing casually on Season 2, I just did overworld stuff. I did not go into Nightmare Dungeons because they were just sad and pathetic. And I feel that's what most people did. They never accepted Nightmare Dungeons as a viable thing. Everyone just stopped complaining about them because people stopped going into them.
For right now. Like, okay, there's the Butcher, and then there's the Son of Malphas, and outside of that, there's no real, like, randomness, something, like, crazy happening, something, like, oh shit moment, basically. And Bloodseekers were exactly that, and they were excellent at this. And we do have Lord Zir as a boss in the game, and there is basically a reward that you can attach to those Bloodseekers, which is Lord Zir summoning materials, for example. So there could be a specific purpose to trying to actually defeat those Bloodseekers instead of just running away from them, for example. I think this is something that should be in the game, at least bring back the Bloodseekers. Lord Zir is still there, so you could tie it in lore-wise if you really want or something. And I think this would be an excellent solution, give people actually like a chance to target.
Who cares about tying it lore-wise? No one even knows what's happening in Diablo 4 lore.
Farm some of those Lord Zir mods at the same time, because right now Lord Zir is definitely a problem for people that...
There's like a random girl that tells you what to do for no reason, then she attaches you to it, and in that end you just kill her mom, and she's really happy about it, and that's it. It's a really stupid story.
An item from that boss, and we just get something other, like some new cool stuff to do sometimes in those Nightmare Dungeons. In general, I think Nightmare Dungeons definitely need a lot more of the seasonal content in them, including the old seasonal content, because ultimately Nightmare Dungeons with the scaling difficulty are the only real content that we have right now, after you have decked out your character, after you are level 100, and you have everything. The outdoor content is just, irrelevant, like, not in the sense that it's not useful to farm it because, Helltide exists and stuff like that, but in terms of difficulty. And the only real challenge you can have is in Nightmare Dungeons. So I think this stuff needs to go into the dungeons, and Bloodseekers are a perfect example here. And
yeah, everything from the previous seasons just needs to go to the things. Man, how is he gonna talk? Dude, how is he even talking so long about this? Okay, let's skip.
Then we have the next point here, Helltide Brush Up. I was actually expecting this to happen in Season 3 already. After the massive success of the Blood Harvest in Season 2, I expected the dev team to just like sit down and just like...
Did he actually unironically said he expected the dev team to understand that they did something good or bad? Bro, have you not been paying attention to this game? The dev team probably doesn't even know that they work at Blizzard at this point. They're like the meme of, okay, how does the, a guy has to work to promote something, and he just attaches, like, rainbow flags and all of this, and someone asks him, how does this help us sell coffee? And the guy answers, sell coffee? This is the response that every Diablo 4 dev probably is giving anyone when they ask them, how are you improving Diablo 4? The answer is, I work at Diablo 4? That's probably unironically how it goes.
Do something with Helltide, because it turns out, yeah, Helltide is more rewarding. We get Forgotten Souls now, and the chest is easier to get. And
we talked about this. Helltide doesn't have a decent monster density. Helltide, when monsters spawn, they're in this giant, small orb thing, and it sucks. There's not enough interesting things. The Helltide is just thread, and that's kind of dumb. And well, there's nothing like. It's not even a Helltide because it has nothing to do with the word hell, honestly, in my opinion. It just kind of sucks, and that's pretty much where it's at. And again, the biggest problem is picking up cinders. No one likes to kill a group of monsters and then just have to go 1 or 2 times in a loop to pick up all the cinders. That's useless. Why do we have to do this, Blizzard? It's so unbelievably stupid that we need to do that. You gave us a pit, and at least make the pit pick it up. And then we can complain about it again that we need to pick... that's the biggest problem with Helltide. The fact that you need to pick up cinders yourself, and that you lose cinders upon death, and you actually lose cinders... I think you still lose cinders, right? When the Helltide ends and it pops up in a different location. It's just bad design.
Them on the map, and you can farm it all the time. That's kind of nice. But ultimately, I think Helltide needs a bit of a revamp. So it just needs more exciting stuff, basically. Like Blood Harvest was fun because there were those siphons, there were those Bloodseekers we could summon. There was always something going on. There were whispers. It was just nice, It was kind of complete. And Helltide is, it doesn't feel very hellish most of the time. Okay, you have like the fire raining down, and there's a bunch more extra demons and stuff. But ultimately, the difficulty is very low. There's nothing going on. Kicks-Off is a joke. It's just a punching bag that is annoying and nothing else. So at the very minimum, for Kicks-Off, it could deal like triple the damage and have no days maybe. So that would be great. And just in general, maybe there's like some portals popping up similar to those vampire siphons from Blood Harvest, for example. And you go there, you activate the portal. There's like 200 demons charging out, and you have to defend against them. Or there's like some mini boss that spawns. That is
also a reason why Blood Tides worked so much better, because is a lot of people are using the thing that damages stuff when you, for example, activate chest or press the space bar. You know, that thing that dealt damage based on your maximum HP. Yeah, that thing. The thing with that ability was, I think it was probably bugged, but essentially it actually hit enemies like one screen away from you. So its AoE was by far the biggest in the history of the game, because you're here, you cast it, here's the end of the screen, here's the next screen, and hits everything on the next screen. So you ended up with situations where you're like destroying one pack of monsters, and you're finishing destroying them, and suddenly just monsters from all directions start running at you, and that was pretty good. Unintentional, but pretty good.
Actually, like, highlighted on the map, and, you know, every so often there's like one of those bosses appearing, and he drops like 50 cinders and 10 forgotten souls, and then everyone rushes there and try to get it or something. I think there just needs to be more stuff going on, basically, in Helltide. It's, you know, not enough density, not enough fun, not enough difficulty. I really wouldn't mind if, like, the monster level is also raised a bit more. It's only like...
I don't want difficulty level in this game. Difficulty level sucks with Blizzard. It's literally just getting one-shotted. What difficulty increases in this game means, it's just getting one-shotted by a mob, and you can't do anything about it. It's literally just gonna appear behind you instantaneously. There's no time to react, even if you paused every one millisecond. It's just not even close. Okay, it's just, and it one-shots you. That's what it means to actually increase difficulty in Diablo 4, and I don't think I want that. I don't want that kind of difficulty, that I just get one-shot by a random thing, and that's pretty much it.
3 of the regular. I think I could easily be +5 or even +10, so it actually also is somewhat relevant for experience farm, for example, and just feels a bit more like threatening. So this is mostly what's missing here. There's nothing really that interrupts the grind a little bit, you know, something like a butcher in a dungeon, for example. So we need something, and the game as it is. Then a very minor fix here, but very important one in my opinion. Separate inventory for sigils.
Yeah, it's slightly annoying.
Please, thank you. Then solo self-found tag. So I'm not really sure if this will make it into the game in Season 4 or not, but
I don't understand why people want solo self-found tag, because everyone is solo self-found. What do you mean? You don't see anyone else in the world? Is that solo self-found? That's... Dude, things like solo self-found working games that people want to constantly play because they're interesting, like PoE, Last Epoch, and other games of that sort. Yeah, that solo self-found works, but in Diablo 4, solo self-found is never working because no one simply cares enough about it.
Then we have world bosses and legions. So this is another point here. I feel like they're just like undertuned, and okay, it's kind of nice.
It's not undertuned. World bosses are stupid, and Legion events are absolutely horrible. The Legion events are just one of the worst things ever. They're boring, they're tedious, they're annoying. It's essentially what happens in your typical Legion event is like this. You get there, you need to wait like 7, 5, or whatever minutes. It's really boring. Then the Legion event starts. A bunch of mobs spawn, and they're gone. Because everyone just one-shots them. Then you have 2 pings on the map, and then you need to get on the horse. You run there, and there's like 3 mobs there yet again, and you need to kill them. And then there's another 2 pings on the map of the next mob spawns, and now there's like this pillar thing that some classes actually can't do properly damage to, so obvious 10 out of 10 Blizzard. And then you kill that, and then there's 1 boss spawn, and before you can damage the boss, for some stupid reason you need to destroy 3 pillars, because that makes sense and it's not completely annoying and people don't absolutely hate it. And then you kill the boss, and then you do it again 3 times, and it's just... Legions are so bad. It could have been so good, but it's so bad.
So just go there and, you know, have some easy grind and get some reward for it. But ultimately, I feel like they are just like, yeah, too boring, to be honest. Like, especially world bosses, like, they either just get one shot, or even if they don't kill them very fast, they're just not threatening at all. There's like these big, massive demons that appear. And in World Tier 1...
I have a video about that. Like... Everyone who actually plays video games have on an above average level, slightly. Yeah, the world bosses are not threatening. But I have a video But I'm not world tier 4 or 3 it wasn't. And I'm doing a world boss and there's people dying every second. The world boss is just killing people every single second. It was the poison world boss. It's like the average Diablo 4 player, the world boss is super challenging for them in actuality. That's the thing. Like they are, it's beyond challenging. Like again, I have a video about that where people die just every almost split second.
And lastly, I have this here, buff Whispers XP in World Tier 1 and 2. This is mostly just for the early game, for the early leveling. Whenever you start a fresh character, I always tell people, go domain tunnels and, you know, maybe do the seasonal quest line, of course, but
yeah,
this is
makes
basically
sense.
the grass later. And lastly, I want to talk about some other stuff here, stretch targets, so just something that I believe is most likely not making it into Season 4, but I just want to like reiterate this here as a long-term goal, perhaps, for the devs. And it's something that I think a lot of people would also like to see. Number one, I guess it's pretty obvious, loot filters. Now, it seems like to me that the 4 team has the idea that with the itemization changes, we don't need a loot filter, but I think...
Yeah, that's a stupid thing. Again, not a programmer, but I said this previously. Isn't a loot filter just, you know, you copy-paste item affixes into it and it's fine? Someone said that the loot filters don't even work like that, that it's way easier. When you make a loot filter, it always just automatically looks at the parameters of items and gives them, shows them by default. So, whenever they make a loot filter, they make a loot filter and it works forever. That's essentially what I got told. So, this makes no sense.
I think ultimately we still really want a loot filter. So I think this is just inevitable.
Every game has a loot filter, no one cares. Armory.
Then we have loadouts. I think this is like also a pretty major request. So I'm just gonna like say this real quick. Diablo 3 had the option to save an entire build and then you could swap between them on your character. So that was kind of...
Yeah, that was pretty gay. I didn't like that.
World Tier 5. I don't want to go the Diablo 3 route with, you know, making Torment 16 and all that stuff. But I think one extra difficulty would definitely be useful for the game.
No.
Something where it's like a bit more challenging in general.
Absolutely not. I have been against world tiers from the start. World tiers completely degrade and remove content from the game. The early levels are useless, but the world tiers make it completely more useless. How many situations have you been in where you're not using some kind of specific material because you know nothing of that is going to matter until you're World Tier 3, or then maybe you spend some in World Tier 4. World Tier 5 would just make it even worse. World Tier 5 would make it that people don't actually interact with the game on its fullest level until they get like, I don't know, level 80 to join World Tier 5 or something like that. It's completely nonsensical garbage. World Tiers need to be removed because they just hinder the game and make everything irrelevant. All that World Tier does is essentially make it so you have to do a dungeon. By the way, all the World Tier dungeons are absolutely horrible ass. And after you do the World Tier dungeon, you just need to, well, suddenly mobs are actually hard, but it's only hard until the point where you get like 1 or 2 next tier item drops, and then it's suddenly easy again. And that's why people don't craft, try to reroll qualities for weapons, upgrade weapons, or do anything like that in low world tiers. Because why would you? Why would you just waste time materials for something that you're going to replace probably in 2 hours? World tiers completely ruin the game. That's pretty much it. Anyway, is this it? The Virat summary. I do not agree with... I do not see there being a single reason ever to use a world tier. And I think one of the best examples was, by the way, the Blood Tide. All of the things that you got in the Blood Tide, you did not use until World Tier 4 was reached. You did not open the chests, you did not use the lures, you did not use anything. Because it's just a waste, because you're gonna throw those items out in, you know, a matter of days probably anyway. So yeah.
Like to see here. Yeah, and this also wraps it up, so as I mentioned, it is...
Anyway, yeah, that's pretty much it. That was Woodjijo. Time to be alive, boys. Anyway, this was Citizen. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.